In today's video, we're going to be talking about renting a timeshare stay from an owner. What are the pros? What are the cons? I'm going to go over them all right after this. Hello and welcome to Destination Timeshare. I'm Jeremy. Today we're going to be talking about renting a timeshare stay at a luxury vacation resort from a timeshare owner. So you're either not a timeshare owner now, or maybe you are, but you're looking to go somewhere that you don't own and you otherwise can't get into. Well, we're going to be going over the pros and cons and what you need to know about renting a timeshare from somebody else who happens to own there. And if you stick around till the end of this video, I'm also going to go over a number of different websites, places online that you can go and check out timeshares for rent. So let's jump into this. The very first pro or positive about renting a timeshare from an owner is there is no annual commitment. So if you were an owner, you would actually have to pay annual maintenance fees and potentially even make payments on that timeshare if you owned it. But by just renting it for cash from another owner, well, hey, you don't have any annual commitments. You just pay the cash for the rental this year, and next year you can go somewhere else. You can do something else. You can stay at home without that commitment or that cash outlay that a timeshare owner has and is actually required to pay every year in those annual maintenance fees. All right, now on to number two here, the second pro, and that just happens to be that you might not actually have to plan as far in advance as a timeshare owner. A lot of timeshare owners, when they're wanting to book a timeshare stay at their home resort or even with their points, they often have to reserve 13 months, 12 months, 10 months, whatever it is, in advance. So they have to be thinking well ahead on what they're going to reserve, when they're going to reserve, and where they're going to reserve, and where they want to go. But you, as a renter, well, you don't need to worry about any of that. You might be able to even go online, check out some of those websites I'll talk about in a little bit, and rent something just a few months, sometimes even a few weeks in advance. Renters tend to plan a little bit more last minute when looking for vacations. You know, if you're going on Expedia or you're going on Travelocity or whatever website it might be, even booking a cruise, you might not plan out a year in advance. Well, timeshare owners usually have to do that, but you as a renter, well, you can plan a lot more last minute. All right, now the third positive here just happens to be more flexibility. Timeshare owners, obviously, in a lot of cases, they own a single week at a resort, and that's the only place that they can book. Or if they want to go somewhere else, they usually have to exchange through an exchange company, whether it be RCI or Interval International. And that has some issues and problems as well. And also, if they own points, well, they have just a certain set of resorts that they're actually able to reserve. So if they own Marriott points, well, they can only reserve within the Marriott points system. And that might mean that they don't actually have certain resorts that they can reserve in certain locations. A lot of locations, prime tourist destinations, probably have some timeshare resort in them, but probably not a timeshare resort from every system. So if maybe you're looking to go to the west coast of Florida, maybe Clearwater, well, you can potentially rent from a Wyndham owner possibly. And if you're looking to go to the east coast, maybe you'd want to be looking at a Marriott owner, one of the Marriott resorts over there, Oceana Palms or Ocean Point, or even Hawaii. Marriott has some fantastic resorts in Hawaii. Wyndham, they're not necessarily quite as nice. You can really reserve at just about any timeshare system by renting from an owner of that timeshare system when you're paying with cash. All right, now the fourth pro here is you might actually get some of the owner perks when you're staying at the resort that the owner booked with their points, with their week, or whatever it might be. This is actually true for us. We actually rented some Wyndham points a while back, and that owner was actually VIP, and somehow it worked out. We actually got a VIP upgrade in room size. I believe it was from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom. Other resorts and their owners might even have some preferential kind of unit placement treatment when they're staying at their home resort over somebody who just paid cash booking directly through whatever website it might be, Expedia, Marriott.com, Hilton.com. So as an owner, they might get a better place unit, maybe a higher floor, maybe a little bit closer to the beach, definitely in the same view category that you're reserving, but probably a little bit nicer room over somebody else who is just paying cash and booking in. You're paying cash and booking in, but you're most likely to be treated as an owner during your stay. All right, now the fifth one, and this is perhaps the best one, is a significant savings over booking online through hotel websites. So if you're to look at some of the Marriott Vacation Club resorts in Hawaii for a 7-night stay in a 2-bedroom, you're probably looking at thousands and thousands of thousands of dollars. Probably even maybe even close to 10,000 or more, depending on the time of year that you're looking to travel. Well, if you're going to be renting from an owner, you're probably going to have a significant savings over that. Maybe 40, 50, 60% or more over what you'd pay booking online directly with the big hotel brands, or even Expedia, Travelocity, whatever it might be. You're looking to save a lot of money by renting from an owner. All right, so there's 5 of the pros. Now we need to talk about some of the negatives, the cons here with renting from an owner. And the first one just happens to be the added risk of being scammed. This is actually probably pretty rare, but you do want to be careful out there because you are kind of building that trust with the owner, and they're also going to be trusting you as well. But there is that chance out there that somebody might reserve something, you might make a payment, and they might go to somebody else and rent the same thing to somebody else, to somebody else, to somebody else. This has happened at different times, so you do need to protect yourself. Probably want to get a contract, and if you can, use a full service listing company. We'll talk about those in just a little bit when I talk about the different companies, the different websites that you can go to. So some of those companies actually will hold the money until after you check in, kind of like an escrow in a way. So the owner lists on their website, you make a payment to the website of that company. They hold it until check-in. When you check in, if you don't have any issues, they then release that money to the owner. If there is a problem, you definitely want to call them up and say, hey, there's a problem. And then they'll try and work with you, figure out what is going on. So at least your money, though, is being held kind of by a third party in a little bit of a protected status there. Because a lot of owners will actually do what they call DIY rentals, do it yourself, where they go out and put a rental listing out there. The renter comes along, makes an offer, come to an agreement, maybe a contract involved there. The renter sends them the money, whether it be by PayPal, by check, whatever it might be, and then they confirm that reservation to the owner. So you gotta be careful in some of these situations because you don't want to get scammed when you're out there renting from owners. All right, now this is probably the next biggest problem, and that just happens to be that when you're renting from an owner, there's usually no cancellation policy. You might be paying 100% up front or even 50% up front and then say 50% due 60 days in advance, 90 days in advance, whatever it might be. But there's usually pretty much no cancellation policy. You sign up to rent that timeshare from the owner, you're on the hook from day one. If you want to cancel 30 days later, you're out of luck. Usually no refunds, no cancellations. Now some owners might in some situations be willing to kind of work with you if there's kind of extenuating circumstances, but definitely don't rely on that. You want to make sure you get proper travel insurance that will cover that rental in the event that you have health emergency or anything else that might be covered, or even look at cancel for any reason types of insurance. Those types of policies are out there as well. So do realize that there's usually no cancellations when renting from an owner. All right, now the third negative here, the third con. In fact, there's more pros than cons, so that's a good thing. But this one just happens to be that you might actually be paying more than you would be if you just owned the timeshare yourself. Most timeshare owners, they're wanting to list their timeshare week or points or whatever it might be for rent, and they're going to want to make some profit for their trouble. So in some cases, they might be increasing that by 10%. Maybe if it's a really popular week, they're increasing it by several $1,000s. So if you are an owner, you'd actually be saving that money yourself. Of course, you are on the hook for the annual maintenance fees, but you would be saving that money, not paying that extra kind of profit to a timeshare owner, and kind of keeping that for yourself, maybe going out for some nicer dinners or shows, attractions, entertainment, whatever it might be. So consider that. You might actually still be paying more than if you just owned the timeshare yourself. All right, now that we've got the pros and cons out of the way, let's talk about a number of different companies, websites, listing services where you can go and, as a renter, try and find owners who are looking to rent out their timeshares. First one we're going to look at here is the Tug Marketplace Timeshare Users Group. This is strictly owners trying to rent out Their timeshares, those DIYs as I call them, there's really no middleman here that's going to collect payment, hold payment, and remit it back to the owner. So this is just 100% pretty much DIY. You might also find some brokers there that are listing timeshares for rent also, so keep that in mind. But Tug Marketplace is a good place to go and look for timeshare rentals by owner. And now next up is going to be redweek.com. This is probably the behemoth, the biggest timeshare rental listing website, at least that I'm aware of right now. And they kind of have some different ways that they allow owners to rent. They let them do DIY. They also let them do verified, where Redweek will actually verify the week that they're renting is in fact the week that they have to offer. And they also have verified and protected, which is essentially the same thing as verified, but you actually pay directly to Redweek. Redweek then holds onto that money and then remits it to the owner when you check in. Realize though, with protected, you are going to be paying an additional transaction fee with that when you make the payment. So remember that when you're online, if you see verified and protected, well, you are going to be paying a little bit more than of Redweek's profit on top of that, on top of what the owner had to pay, in fact, to list their week or timeshare for rent. All right, the next one here is now go-koala.com, or just Koala. Kind of looks a little bit and works a little bit like Airbnb. You kind of just go out there, look for what you want, you make your payment. It's another kind of situation where your money is protected. They're holding on to those funds until you check in, and then they release it to the owner. I'm going to mention 4 others here. These are probably a little bit less common, but still quite popular rental sites for timeshares. And that happens to be Vrbo and Airbnb, kind of the 2 big behemoths in the home rental market. Well, people actually, in fact, list their timeshares for rent there too. So definitely, if you're looking to rent a timeshare, go and check Vrbo or Airbnb as well. Another small one that's starting to see a little bit more traction is Expedia. People are actually able to now list their timeshares for rent or even their homes for rent on Expedia. So try them out as well. And then we also have eBay. eBay is a big, huge marketplace of all kinds of products. People are selling thousands and thousands and thousands of products an hour essentially on eBay. Well, timeshare rentals is another one. So go out there, check that out. Do realize though that those are usually person-to-person transactions, kind of those DIY. So you got to be a little bit more careful there with eBay transactions. And then the one here that kind of has the most risk to it. This is one that I've never really done, but I know people who list their timeshares for rent this way, and that just happens to be Craigslist. So if you're looking to go to Orlando, go to the Orlando section of Craigslist and look and see if there's any timeshares for rent. Same thing if you're looking to maybe go to Scottsdale or Hawaii, check those areas as well. You might find some timeshares for rent there too. Now this again, it is a DIY type transaction between you and the owner. So be extra careful here before just sending anybody any money. In all these cases of DIY, you pretty much almost always want to get a written contract between you and the owner. Kind of make sure, well, if something happens, you have a little bit of recourse, at least if you're willing to maybe take them to court. So those are kind of the websites, not personally recommending or endorsing any of them, and none of them have sponsored this video. So I will put links to all of those down in the description box below. So check those out if you're looking to rent a timeshare from an owner. Kind of curious, are you looking to rent timeshare from an owner? Have you tried doing it? Have you had any problems? Have you done it before in the past? I'd love to know your success stories down in the comments below. And if you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Really does help with these videos. And to see another video, maybe you want to check out all of the Marriott Orlando resorts, well, I'll put a link to one right here. Check out that video next. Thanks for watching, and remember, until next time, the best memories are made in a timeshare.